Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first day of the rest of your life. My name is Andy Zaremba, and with me behind the helm today is my brother Mike.
Hey, everybody. Pleasure to be here. Thanks for joining us, and nice to see you, Andy.
It's nice to be back under another rainy Vancouver afternoon. And as usual, we are recording here out of 70 West Code River Street here in Gastown, Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. And also, this is another installment of the Tedx Stanley Park series. But before I introduce our guest today, Mike and I want to do a little talk about Float House and Vancouver Real and all the communities we have going.
Absolutely. And actually, first we'll just recognize that Vancouver is on the lands of unceded Coast Salish people's land. And so just acknowledging that, and that might actually come up in our talk today in a little more significance. So,
absolutely.
But yeah, floating is what we do here at Float House. And it's kind of what makes this podcast happen. Obviously, the studio is located within our Gastown Center. If you haven't heard of flotation therapy, go check out on YouTube. Just or search what is floating. There's a very good 6-minute synopsis video there that kind of walks you through the whole thing and what the benefits are with flotation therapy. And if you want to try floating, you can use the promo code VancouverReal and save 20%.
Yeah, in fact, I have a float scheduled for this afternoon directly after this podcast at 3 o'clock. And it's great because we're doing this podcast, and then I'm going to have a float, and then we're doing a second podcast, another Tedx Stanley Park podcast. So it's nice to get that bit of rest in between because I worked all morning, and I'll be nice and fresh before the last one of the day. So I'm looking forward to that.
Awesome. Cool.
Yep. And as usual, we'd like to give a shout out to the Vancouver Real community. And the Vancouver Real community is basically a Facebook group page, and we have people from all walks who come out to our Vancouver Real meetups, which we typically hold on a monthly basis, but we're on a bit of a hiatus right now simply because our community managers, Candace and Sean, are actually away right now. Mm-hmm. But typically with our meetups, we do all sorts of different things. They're health and wellness oriented, or maybe they're tech related, or even a little bit spirituality sprinkled in there from time to time.
Why not?
So we offer a wide range of workshops, and they're always for free. So if you'd like to come out to an event sometime, go to vancouverreal.tv under the events section. That's where we update events frequently. Or you can just join the Vancouver Real community Facebook page.
Awesome. And one more little plug for another community that Andy actually kind of took the lead on. It's called Mindful Mass. Mindfulmass.org is the website. And basically this is a flash meditation mob that we do about quarterly in Vancouver. Well, basically select a date and a place and just invite as many people as possible to come and do a mass 20-minute meditation sit, and just kind of bringing that little blast of conscious awareness to different parts of the city. And it's been growing every single time, and it's a really awesome event that's been just over a year now. So
and it's free. We have a really great local yoga teacher, Carolyn Ann Budgell. She's also a meditation teacher who leads the meditations, and we're working on one now for the spring, and hopefully it will be at City Hall. So
ooh, nice.
Or just outside of City Hall. We're still waiting for permission for that, but fingers crossed, and we'll definitely let you know. So if you want to link up with Mindful Mass, you can go to mindfulmass.org, or you can go to the Mindful Mass Vancouver Meditation Mob Facebook group page as well, and we'll accept you, and you can come.
That one's always a mouthful.
Community. It's a big one. I need to condense that one down. Yeah, it's a lot.
It's a mouthful.
But so, I like it. It's good for now.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Cool.
Today, we are featuring another Tedx Stanley Park speaker, Andrea Menard, and you, you're a singer, songwriter, storyteller, right? And the talk that you're going to give at Tedx Stanley Park is Violence Against Women Silences Too Many Voices in Our Society.
That's right.
Nailed it.
Awesome.
There you go. And that name, as you said before, has been a bit of an evolution, which we can get into a little bit. And you actually have a website, and it's www.andreamenard.com. Yep. So if you want to link up with Andrea, you can do that through the website. So first and foremost, welcome to Vancouver Real.
Thank you. And I just learned a whole bunch about you in that intro, so thank you for having me.
We try to keep it brief, but we also want to get in there too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and now you got a whole little picture of our world, I guess.
I do, and it totally resonates with me.
Cool.
So violence against women silence too many voices in our society.
Yeah.
So first of all, what's the inspiration for that talk, and why did you pick that theme?
Well, first of all, Tanchi, Keawau. I'm a Métis woman from the prairies and honored to be here on Coast Salish territories. And thank you for that acknowledgement for my brothers and sisters who live here.
Awesome.
So I am an Indigenous woman and a very light-skinned Indigenous woman. I'm very aware of that. And it's an epidemic in our community. You know, violence against Indigenous women is pretty profound. But I think in the air today, you know, I mean, what's happening with women's voice about the Me Too movement and Time's Up? I mean, it's sort of timely. And if you would have told me I was talking about this last year when I was the backup speaker for Tedx Stanley Park, I was called in 5 weeks before the whole event, and I had to get something ready. So I was like running and crying and freaking out, trying to figure out what my topic was, because I didn't have a topic. I've got many topics. I've got many topics, and it was hard to sift it down. And so this year, when I had more time, like everyone else, it's like I knew it was all about voice, because I'm an actress, I'm a singer, I'm a speaker, I'm someone who lost my voice and the right, you know, feeling like I had the right to speak for many years. So that's very important to me. So I knew it was something about that. But for the Tedx Stanley Park format, they have a very specific structure that you need to fit. And I was having trouble with this structure. And so the structure is you need to find the problem in order to solve it, right? What's the problem? What's the problem? And I wasn't nailing the problem. I had the body and the body of the talk.
Which is around using your voice, right?
Yeah, it was around, and also about how I lost my voice, and it was through sexual violence and how I found my voice. But to me, this was the back burner story. And it was everyone else, the coaches, when they finally said, Andrea, this is logically what's happening. How is this not about your problem about violence against women? And I went, well, is it? You know, I struggled with it, and that's how it came about.
Interesting. So through the whole Tedx Stanley Park process, it actually helped you refine where your message was coming from.
Absolutely. And once I discovered that was my topic, I realized that I didn't tell anyone for a while. Once I'd written and realized that this was my topic, I needed about 2 weeks to sit with it myself and realize that I needed courage to actually talk about it. I went, oh, wow. I realized I don't want to talk about it. I didn't want that to be my message. And then I realized that that's the point. No one wants it to be their message.
Right.
The point is that it's yours right now in this time of humanity when it's all coming out. It's time for you to take a public stand. You are, oops, sorry.
When you say you mean yourself.
Yeah. Andrea, it's time for you, Andrea, to take a stand.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a celebrity in my own way. I mean, I'm on a show on Blackstone or on Netflix. And so I have a public persona that just like all of those women coming forth have. And I thought, oh my gosh, this was meant to be. Shocked me to the core.
And so as the time for you, like it kind of came, like when you sat with it for a couple of weeks, I think, which is a really, smart thing to do. It's just like, how do I feel? And like really let it sink in. And it kind of came to you that I need to really stand on this hill and say what I need to say about this.
Yes. And to feel that, there are so many people who've been on the front lines and fighting and speaking up and yelling and screaming, really, to be heard. And so I honor those people, women and men who've been standing up on the front lines. I have not been one of those people. But here I am.
Seems like you're going to be on the front lines pretty soon.
Yeah.
On the big stage.
Yeah. Yes, I am. But, I'm absolutely willing to lend my support because I do realize that I have some clout that other people may not have, and I'm going to use it to help my brothers and sisters who are already there.
So
Amazing.
What is the inspiration for the talk specifically? Is it a personal story that you can share, or is it something that you just like to speak on?
Well, no, it's not something I've ever spoken on, but when you tell a story about your life, one of the stories that I talk about in my TED Talk is about how I was a little songbird and how I lost my voice through a sexual violence act, and it wasn't the act as much as the shame that went with it, and my throat was affected, and I didn't realize it for years, but when I was trying to sing and find my own voice, I had this burning lump in my throat. Like it was literally a hot mass in my throat. And I didn't know what was wrong and I couldn't figure it out. And it was only through the healing process that I managed to figure it out.
What was the healing process?
Emotional. Like I let it all out in my TEDx, so you have to come see it.
Yeah, totally.
But, you know, I go to my elder and I give them tobacco and ask for help. And she helps me so far, but in a way, it's like I have to do the rest. I have to actually face myself. And that's emotional work. That's, you know, I'm an expressor. I'm an actress and a singer and a speaker. So I use my voice. So it makes sense that for me, healing was using my voice, was to actually use it and yell and scream and cry and let it all out.
Right. So the trauma happened. This shut your voice down, and then you went to visit a healer.
Like years later.
Years later.
Years like.
And was the transformation that happened to help you find your voice again? Did it happen before or after, or was it the entire process? Before the healer or after the healer?
Well, the thing is, just like the healing process, it's never one thing. So in a TED Talk, you have to talk about one thing.
Right.
And because you have 15 minutes.
Yeah, it is very condensed.
So ultimately, I would say that my life and my choices about healing, becoming well and learning what was wrong and asking the questions was my healing journey. You know, and it took many years. I'm still on it. I mean, even the fact that I went through another bout of feeling voiceless for this TED Talk. I mean, that's what reminded me that that's what my topic was, because I felt again, I have nothing to say. I don't know what, you know, all of that whole self-doubt and turning against yourself. So, yeah.
It's interesting. There's been a couple people that we've now interviewed doing this process who have definitely gone through a very personal growth, facing the self transformation process with it, because it is such a like distilled expression of yourself. And so it really forces you to like, okay, look in that mirror and what do I have to say? What do I need to say?
I found it really interesting.
Huge.
Like before we did like the London Real interview, like weeks or even months leading up to it, being on the other side, being the interviewee, you know, instead of the interviewer, really helped. I really had to focus and distill down what I wanted to say.
Right.
So it's really interesting because like when you're put on the public eye like that, it's like it forces you to get really clear on your message.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, does it ever?
Yeah.
And once I did, you know, once I surrendered to this new message, at the end, I always had a little song, a galvanizing song that I sang. And but the song I had wasn't working anymore. And so I surrendered and said, okay, so if I were to have a new song, what would it be? And I started writing down lyrics. And they came out like the grandmothers gave me those words, you know? And I went,
flowed.
okay. And I called my co-writer, Robert Walsh, and said, we're writing a song over Christmas. It has to be done fast.
Wow.
It has to be ready for Tedx Stanley Park.
So this is a song that will be released the day of?
The day of it. Well, that's probably as much time as we've got. Yeah, it's just been recorded. We're still getting all the little tweaks and mixing, and it is called Silent No More. So the song is called Silent No More, and it will be released on March 3rd, which is the day of the Tedx Stanley Park, and the video, this is kind of the exciting part of how a TEDx changes your life. Okay, everyone, you've got to come and see Tedx Stanley Park because you have no idea the things that went on in the background.
Totally. Yeah.
So in the meantime of recognizing that this song had to be recorded and a video, maybe the video has to be out by the time the video comes out, the TEDx video comes out. Well, I mobilized a whole bunch of people to march during the Women's March on January 20th. And someone donated, Carmel Ecker donated a logo. We got t-shirts, we got a silk screen that we made our own t-shirts, and we had a whole bunch of people marching, and we were called the Silent No More Marchers. And it was a way to say, like, these are the subjects that I like to talk about.
Yeah, you know, on that, sorry, go ahead.
Is when women recognize that they are sacred, we will know we have the right to be silent no more. Because that's the difference. Women don't know we're sacred. And the world doesn't necessarily treat women as though they are sacred. Now, all human beings are sacred, but women are sacred, and we all have to remember that. So when women know they are sacred, we will know we have the right to be silent no more.
Absolutely. There's so many things I wanted to. I was thinking about while you were saying that. I'd like to go back before we start unpacking some of that, and maybe talk about the healing process for you specifically. Like, what helped you find your voice the most, and and what sort of exercises or actions did you take in order to help you through that process?
Oh, how long have you got? Gosh, just like everyone.
Yeah.
I've floated. Oh yeah, baby.
Nice.
I've floated. Yeah.
Awesome.
I would say, I mean, traditionally, I've gone to sweat lodges. I've gone many ceremonies, and in sweat lodges, for people who have never been to one, there is protection in the darkness. You go into a structure that is created to be like the womb of the mother, and so you go into this dark space. And you pray, you sing, you can scream and yell. It's a safe place to make noise. And in our world, we don't necessarily have safe places to make noise, especially, the actual spaces, but then the permission to make noise. So this is a big part of what I teach too, is permission to make noise. And for me, that was number one. Number one was actually knowing I was allowed. So that was part of it. And Mother Nature was huge, and just being able to go out into the silence and actually hear myself and my spirit for the first time, if you're a young person, always busy and distracted. But when I got a dog and went out into nature, it changed my life.
Right. So the lodges were very useful. And you mentioned were there other sort of ceremonies as well that you participated in?
Mm-hmm. But not necessarily formals. There's ceremonies that bring sacredness to your life,
right?
And that's smudging and prayer, and
we're very ceremony friendly around here.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
I know, you get it.
I think there's like an element it's built within us on what level of our being, I don't know, or every level of our being, where you bring ritual into it, and intention, and sincerity, and honesty, and integrity, and all those things, and just bring yourself fully to it as much as you can. It has this effect on us, and it's a reflection, and as long it's an incredible process if you kind of just, like you kept saying, surrender. I think that's a huge word you've repeated a couple times. Actually, maybe we can dive into that. What do you mean by surrender? Because some people might look at surrender and be like, that's weak. Surrender's weak.
Yeah.
What do you say to that?
Surrender is power. Surrender is a letting go of a control that's not working. Surrendering to your spirit, to your ancestors, to the wise ones, whoever, your angels, to your higher self, whatever words you want to use. But surrendering to that wise part of you who knows the best solution for every situation, when, as in our little earth walk, when we are in our human form, we don't know what that is. We forget what that is. And we tend to think we know. And when things don't work, it's sweet release to surrender to the part of us that does.
When at the end of the day too, we're all going to have to surrender at some point, right? Everything will get taken from us eventually. And if you do resist that and grasp and hang on to those things, we know that, you're not going to win that fight. You know what I mean? It's impossible. And you can either do it kicking and screaming, or you can actually surrender and make the process much, much easier for yourself, right? You mentioned a little bit earlier as well that, women have lost the idea of them being sacred. And, in a lot of the Native traditions, a lot of women are actually referred to as life givers, which is, I think, the very appropriate term.
Good
right?
for you. Yeah.
Now, I was just curious on, why do you think that women have forgotten that they are sacred?
I think, personally, that we have been in the time of the sacred masculine for a very, very long time. And it behooved those in power to eliminate, if possible, the feminine voice and the indigenous voice off the planet. There was a marked attempt, shall we say, because that is to this warped masculine power structure, not real beautiful sacred masculine. We're talking about the warped one, the power structure. It sees the sacred feminine, and which I also sort of go together with the indigenous voice, as a threat, because it empowers the individual. It empowers human beings. Where surrender is power, where it's not weakness, it's power. And that has been a dangerous concept for many years if someone in power wants to keep that control. So there has been help in women forgetting by murdering, by silencing, by literally the witch hunts. Billions of women were killed, and that's just on the other side of the ocean. And then when that power structure comes to this side of the ocean, that same sort of feminine connection to the land and to the personal connection to spirit, which is feminine, is tried to be eliminated as well. So it's been helped along this forgetting who we are. And I think all of us have forgotten who we are.
Totally.
Yes.
And especially, I like that idea of including the divine masculine in that as well.
Mm-hmm.
If you could maybe sum up, like if you were thinking about the most archetypal, divine masculine and divine feminine, what are those qualities? What do they look like when they're in their highest, possible ideal?
Good question. Okay. Well, I would say that the sacred feminine is receptivity. It is inclusion. No one gets left out. It is compassion. It is receptivity, inclusion. Yeah, I'm going to stick with those for now because I can see men and women, male, female, all along the spectrum. Those are feminine qualities. There might be more I come up with. Sacred masculine, I would say, is illumination, expansion, and protection.
Right. So I think those are good archetypal ideals
and
for
they're
both,
large, right? They're very large.
So obviously there is those sort of ideals which we are hopefully achieving or working towards. Now, what do you think, and again this is potentially speculation or maybe but what would you say, what caused the derailment? Why did both get thrown off so badly?
Well, because I could add more words. So there's also action in the sacred masculine, and if action and expansion and moving forward and conquering and all of all of a sudden it turns to conquering and usurping and all of those things, that can become imbalanced, right? Because those are moving out into the world, and those are important and glorious and beautiful, but without tempered by the feminine, which is inclusion, which is expression, which is creativity, which is
safety.
And receptivity, which is the softness, is to be active and listen, to action and listen and make sure that, is this right for everyone? And protection too, right? So it's the both. It's if without tempered, it can get out of whack.
Right, exactly.
expand, action.
I wonder if you can almost see like how both of those dynamics are so like intertwined.
Oh,
the quote warped masculine kept kind of getting out of balance, so did the feminine. Like someone who's receptive and compassionate, like it's so easy for that to kind of get too small.
Yeah.
And like just be like, now I don't say anything.
Even
at
the
all.
feminine side within men as well.
Totally.
Both.
To be
both
to be so receiving when it's not giving back anymore, when it's just receiving all of that, shall we say, warped sense. Like that's a long thing to be receiving for a long time, and that's the receptive part of men too. So to me, this beautiful time, because right now my elders say that this is the time of the sacred feminine. We are in it. We are absolutely in it. And you two men, may I honor you for being way showers of men who are honoring that receptive part of yourselves. So I honor you and being public about it, because emotional men this is your time for revolution too. And it's our time, just like it's time for women's revolution to say, I speak. I have the right to speak. And it's going to be messy and kind of crazy for a while, right, women? You know, it's going to be a little, because it takes so much courage to break that barrier of silence. And sometimes you need anger to get past it. Sometimes you need whatever.
We need a little bit of fire.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's, you know,
and that
so
can be explosive. Might come out a little stronger than you wanted even.
Yes,
right?
but it's just going to have to.
Right.
Yeah, an attempt
Right
to
now.
restore balance.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or
And
more
so-
balance. And it seems like it's always going to be that sort of back and forth. It seems like that's the duality of life, right?
Yeah.
And
And what I ask of our beautiful men out there, our men listening, is that this is your time to find. So women are going to be finding their action voice, and I guess we ask you men to find your receptive ears. So it's going to be a little crazy for a while. It doesn't mean that you're being dishonored in any way, and maybe you'll feel like it, but it is a time where we're all going to have to reach across that hard thing, which is women taking action, or that action voice, and men not taking the action voice and listening and receiving.
I was going to say, and I think
really
men
interesting.
feeling, you know,
Yeah.
allowing themselves to feel,
Bingo.
like that, giving that permission to go inside, to feel what's going on. I mean, it's both an
Yep.
internal process for the masculine and feminine,
Yeah.
and the masculine is like, okay, I need to acknowledge and be honest with these feelings and not try to distort or rationalize what it is, and just like let it be what it is, and and let it out.
Well, it's interesting on this
Yeah.
this note as well. I can't remember what spiritual lineage this came from, or where I heard it exactly, but I heard that when men are sort of going on their spiritual journey, they will become more recluse, more withdrawn. They will isolate, and women actually do the opposite. Women take on those more, I think it's almost more masculine qualities, where again, like you said, going out, taking action, using your voice, being more public. And it feels like you're counterbalancing whatever your natural tendency might be, to probably bring more harmony. So a lot of men will, like, for example, like a lot of men have been attracted to flotation tanks, which is like funny because, I mean, a lot of women do it too, for sure. But
yeah.
and non-binary and everyone else in between.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, it's funny because meditation has typically, and yoga and maybe more Eastern mysticism has been more feminine in general. However, something like this has attracted a lot of men in and giving them that experience. And I just find it so interesting how it's like, on the female spiritual journey, they actually have to take on some masculine qualities, and then vice versa.
Yeah. And so maybe also is, from what I understand from my male friends who are on this journey, and they have also been, you know, it's been very scary for them to become, you know, to be public about that. So the male warped, you know, culture, you know, that doesn't necessarily nurture the men's feelings and stuff, that could also be a reason why they retreat. You know, it's a safer place too, because you're not necessarily, you go and talk to your brothers, right? And cry with your brothers.
Well,
Or do you?
Well, that's
What, you
coming
know what?
around. That is coming around.
Sorry,
believe
guys.
it or not. We're
Yeah.
both
Bless
actually
your
part of
hearts.
different men's groups where
Oh.
that is completely acceptable.
Good.
And it's set up for that because it's like
Yeah.
it's a sacred space essentially where that happens, if that needs to happen.
Great.
Now, with the Tedx Stanley Park talks, we've identified the problem, and I know Roger is huge on what's the action. So what is the action that the audience can do and take home and put into play within their lives after they hear your talk?
Well, mine's not a traditional one like that, but I would say that my main invitation for my brothers and sisters out there is to be silent no more, to add your voice to the conversation, to raise your voice, to speak up and speak out, and have the courage to be silent no more. So ultimately, it's about raising our voice as one, because as one, we will end violence against women as one, because it's not just women who are going to do it. It's not just men. It's going to be all of us together.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting how like this collective process kind of starts with an individual process too, and they feed off each other. And you know, something that's been going around, there's a professor named Jordan Peterson. He says like he's on this big movement right now about like speak your truth, which is kind of what I heard you saying too. It's like speak up, speak out, speak your truth, and whether maybe your truth is biased and distorted, but at least when you get it out, then you can get it reflected back to you, and you
Right.
can you get a reflection. It's like, and if you're willing to look at
But you're
it,
getting direct feedback, right?
right?
You're getting direct
Yeah.
feedback. It's like, okay, so say what you think, but it's like, all right, put it out there and then be prepared for what comes back. But at least you can put it out there, and if that idea is a crappy idea, then you can realize that and potentially shift or change your thought around that thing. I think that, not, and again, going back to the idea of not being afraid just to speak.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, I would say too, is allowing people to be, to do that and make mistakes too. Because sometimes people are going to say something and they need to be straightened out. But it's like, we need to, I feel like if you attack and demonize, it's going to polarize even more. You know what I mean? I feel like it's so important to allow people to speak, but then give them the chance to change if their viewpoints are not correct or in line or whatever.
And that sounds like what I would, I guess, the male story, for the female story of women who have been hurt and beaten and raped and sexually assaulted and harassed, all of those things. Those women, it's a different story. It's about actually having the courage to speak up and for someone to actually care. So sometimes speaking up, you feel your life will be in danger. So that's a very real problem in many, many homes, because that's where it happens a lot, is in homes. Yes. So this is for a woman to actually speak up, and is to know that they're not alone. Is that speaking up to your partner, the one who's abusing you, may not be the one to talk to, but someone else, to speak to someone else, a trusted friend. There are people out there who will listen, and you're not alone. So that in itself, breaking that silence, just that first person, if you have no one else to talk to, that first person will be huge. There are centers all over the world. And so that in itself, talk to a friend, talk to me,
Sure.
admin at AndreaMenard.com, and I can send you information about where to go if you live wherever you are.
Awesome.
I mean, I know in Vancouver.
Yeah. No, that's great though.
So you said you're an actor, singer, writer, storyteller, and you also have a CD called Lift.
Oh, yeah.
And
I have several, but yeah, that's one.
It's one of your CDs. So what style of music do you produce?
Well, they've been very project-oriented. My first CD, The Velvet Devil, was a one-woman show that I took across Canada and made into a made-for-television movie for CBC. So that's that one. And then my next one is honoring the music I grew up with as a Métis woman. So it's a bit rootsy, bordering on country. And then my third one was a Winter Songs Christmas holiday album. And now Lift, was actually, interestingly enough, which might be very interesting to your community here, hello, is that Lift was my recognition that I, as a songkeeper, as a traditional songkeeper, someone who brings songs to the people, it's my responsibility to bring well-being to the tribe. And it was an awakening that blew my mind, and I realized musicians have been feeding our listeners our pain and our suffering. Oh my gosh, how are we? Oh my gosh, that's not our job. Our job is to help people remember their divinity, their sacredness, their beauty. And well, that little Lift album right there is my prayer to the world. And it's every single song is a positive message. I coined this term, the music messengers. So I created a little website at the time to go, there are people like me existing, I mean, if we think food, people are starting to look at what food they put in their body or what TV they're watching. Why not what music they're listening to?
Absolutely.
And there's a whole movement happening in the States. Have you heard of the Positive Music Awards?
I have not.
I bet you hadn't. Posi Music Awards in Tampa every year.
Interesting.
12 years now.
Very
Right.
interesting.
What does it take to qualify to be part of the Positive Music Awards?
You need to write positive songs. Lyrics. It's lyrics. Because, New Age has
Positive
existed for a long
messages.
time.
Yeah.
But there hasn't been a genre for the actual lyrics that are positive.
It's true
It's
because
people creating that, it's like we thought create things. We create our reality by our words. So why is music not one of those things, right?
well, it's so important too. I think
huge.
with especially with the youth, young people consuming different sources of media, if you listen to a lot of pop culture, especially the last 10, 20 years, it's been pretty toxic. Like if you listen to hip hop, or if you go to like heavy metal music, or
country,
or punk, or whatever, all these other ones that are like more, that are definitely on the dark. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's young minds are so impressionable. You know, I remember this one album I bought years and years ago when I was a teenager, and I looked on the album and it said, "Music may be habit forming." And at first, I didn't really think it was a warning label on the CD case, said music could be habit forming. So but the weird thing about that is it was on the case. So obviously, people who are producing the music know how much it affects people.
Yeah.
Right. So back to your point, it's like you can, what are you putting out into the world? What do you want your message to be to people? And it's like, do you want it to be one of like continuing status quo, or promoting something that's not so good or toxic, or do you want it to be something healing, like you're trying to produce yourself?
And there are thousands of us, of songwriters, singer-songwriters, musicians who are actually waking up to this. And we haven't necessarily seen it, it's not making a public thing yet, but it's happening. It's happening in the hearts of individual musicians. And when that happens, then we come together. And the Pausies was a place where they started to gather. The Pausies, yeah.
Nice. I like it.
You guys, your folks should totally know about the Pausies. They actually have a website and an free online radio called Empower Positive Music. Nope. Empower Positive Radio. It's a free app.
Wow.
You can get it.
Yeah.
Empower Positive Radio.
It's just like a streaming music source?
Yeah.
Cool.
It's so true, because our inputs really do affect us. Like what you're putting in all aspects, right? Like you said, nutritionally, what you're listening to, entertainment-wise, educationally.
Cleaning products,
It's so important to be aware of those things. And if you do, you are, violence is so prolific throughout all media. Right, it's like on all mainstream media, like the old phrase is, if it leads, it bleeds, or if it bleeds, it leads. What I mean? If it bleeds, it leads. Right, so basically promoting violence, and it's true. Like basically, what it's essentially doing is hijacking our fight or flight response. Is hijacking like primordial. It's hijacking primordial like systems within the human body, which grab people's attention. And of course, if someone's paying attention, then you can sell them products through advertising, and hence why we get fed so much negativity on the media. And it creates this distorted view of what's actually really happening in the world too, because it's actually the most peaceful and most least violent time in history right now. Minus Syria, apparently. Syria has created an uptick in that. Okay. But other than that, all violence has been on a downward trend worldwide, and including world poverty, and including world hunger. That's all going down. But if you just listen to mainstream media, you think the sky is falling.
Yeah. And I mean, that's why my elders would say, the time is the sacred feminine, and more human beings on the planet will want no war than those who do, for the first time in, ever maybe. So regardless of what we're seeing, it's not necessarily who we are anymore. We are a changing human species. And yay to that.
Yeah. Well, and I think Vancouver is definitely a hotbed for that as well. Yeah. I think it's just like, I feel like we're leading. And there's other hotbeds as well around North America, I would say, and probably around the world, which I'm not aware of. But there's definitely lots in Vancouver, and there's lots of ways to do it too, right? It's like there's lots of ways to transform.
Oh yeah, like the Float House. Having this be a successful business in a place where people can come on their lunch hour, when that used to be, what do I do to calm down? I mean, now a Float House exists. Right?
Well, and things like the lodges too. Like I've only done one lodge, but I would definitely like to do more of them. And very powerful. It is intense, intense experience for sure. Yeah. But really awesome. And like I can't even describe what the feeling was like afterwards. It was sort of euphoric. Non-ordinary, if you want to call it that. I was getting a small peek into an altered state of consciousness, non-ordinary reality, if you want to call it that, all induced by drumming, singing, and heat and darkness, basically, which is was a powerful combination.
And humans coming together and doing it.
And that's the other thing.
Yeah,
Right?
the ritual,
It's-
the ceremony.
Yeah.
And calling in sacred space and everything that goes along with that as well. So
Yeah.
amazing.
Good for you
Yeah.
for having done that.
Oh,
Good
yeah.
for you.
Well, I'd like to go back for sure. I mean,
No,
Well,
it's awesome.
the funny thing is they do it on
Yeah.
the North Shore too. I
That's
haven't,
right.
and Adam knows people on the North Shore that are doing
Mhm.
it, but I haven't gone for a while.
No,
Well,
I know.
you kind of have to be invited. You kind of have to know someone who's running it. But
Yeah. Well, just let me know. I'll invite you.
amazing.
Oh,
Thank
okay.
you.
Cool.
All right, Andrea. So, is there anything else? Any final words you'd like to get out today to our listeners?
Well, we're in there's a little idea we're having is that on March 3rd, ours is the talk and the release of the song. And on March 8th, which is International Women's Day, we are in the process, so I can't say for sure right now, this is still fresh, but we're in the process of creating a Silent No More march right here in your neighborhood.
Oh, wow.
So we would watch for it on Facebook, the
Okay.
Silent No More march, I guess, or the Silent No More celebration march.
Okay.
Do
Well,
me a favor. Tag me in it
I
or invite
totally
me
will.
to it, and I'll
You guys are
share it on
invited.
the Vancouver Real Facebook page as well.
I would love it. And we would love you two there, these two men who stand with their sisters. Silent No More.
Cool.
Amazing.
Awesome.
That is awesome. Thank you very much for the
So
invite.
is there a
Thank
Silent
you.
No More Facebook page? Or where can this event be linked
well, there's
from?
been there isn't a page yet, but I will. I know there's been an event page, but it
Very
has to
good.
be updated.
Just, let me know,
Okay.
and then we'll definitely share it on our page as well. We'll
Absolutely.
share it after we release this podcast to make sure that it's
Yeah.
congruent and people can actually go and be like, oh, there it is, right?
Absolutely.
So, perfect.
'Kay.
Awesome. Well,
Thank you.
very much, and I'm extremely excited to come watch you
Mhm.
talk. Roger's been nice enough to give us a couple tickets for interviewing one of the speakers, so I'm excited. So I will see you that day. I'll be in the audience listening to you
Aw.
guys. So, and there's, we've had some really powerful interviews from a lot of the speakers. So, and just like you mentioned before, maybe really quick, it is a major endeavor to do a Tedx Stanley Park talk.
Yes.
Like they really get put through the ringer. There's tons of practice.
Mm-hmm.
Can you speak on that a little bit?
Well, I would say that Tedx Stanley Park is unique that way, is that they want to be the best.
Yeah.
The best TEDx in North America. And
Yeah,
so
they do.
they demand a lot of their speakers, and they give and expect a lot. They give and expect a lot for their speakers. So there's a deadline probably once or twice a month for the last 8 months. We've had to get together. There's training. I probably did 35 drafts,
Wow.
Holy
like
cow.
drafts.
How many times have you practiced your speech?
Oh, once a day for forever.
and I'm sure all the way
Oh,
until
yeah.
the day of.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And maybe the day of as well.
Oh gosh, 3 times before I go on, and I'm first up that day. So
Oh, wow. You're
that's
breaking
awesome.
the ice.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Powerful.
I think that's awesome, though.
You know what I think it's
very
great.
exciting.
And the funny thing is with that too, people generally remember the first and the last.
Ooh.
They generally do, because it's like you're the first impression they get, and then remember the last one, and everything else in between. Not that they won't be remembered, but people we usually remember the first speaker for sure.
That's
So
great.
great
Well,
opportunity.
Great
Wow.
opportunity and a great message to be spreading.
Thank you.
And how
I'm
can people
so
get in touch?
honored.
Sorry, how can they get in touch with you again?
Again, at AndreaMenard.com and Andrea Menard Music, Facebook and Instagram. Grandmother Wind. Guess you don't have to
Grandmother
remember
Win.
that.
We didn't get into that.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe next time you come on.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, I'm on Facebook and I'm on LinkedIn and Andrea Menard. So
Perfect.
So they can find you.
you bet they can.
Excellent.
I'm so honored to be here, you two.
Well,
Thank you.
Thank you for joining
Honored
us.
to have
I
you.
really appreciate it. Okay, well, I guess that wraps up another episode.
Yes, I'm ready to go again at 5 o'clock. So
Yeah. And if you, as usual, if you like what you heard today, leaving us a review, a like, a comment, a share, all that stuff, engagement of some sort on social media goes a long way these days. It's sort of there's a book I read a long time ago called The Like Economy, basically talking about how valuable those things are these days. So,
Totally.
and if you want to support by doing any of those things, that would be greatly appreciated. And of course, if you like to give floating a try, you can use the promo code Vancouver Real, and that will get you a 20% discount on a single float, and link up with the Vancouver Real community and Mindful Mass community, and come out to an event sometime. So, looking forward to connecting with you in person.
until next time,
To whatever is.
to whatever is.